Good evening. I'm Daquandre Rankins, and I'm coming to you today to talk about what works brief number 11. Okay, let's get it started. Question number one: share an aha moment. One aha moment that I definitely had was learning about the functional communication training. Um, One thing I did not know that there was a training for children who had these type of um, bad behaviors, not necessarily bad, but tantrums, stuff like that, who had problems with hitting or showing out during class time. I never knew that there was some type of training for these type of things. Well, not necessarily training, but I guess intervention for parents and the child as well. Usually, when I see a child acting out, it's usually because I think either it's something is I'm either going home. Sorry, I either think that there's something either going on at home, or I think it's either something that a child will either grow out of. Now, seeing that there is a functional communication training for children that have these type of problems, like with such as hitting or not having their way or not being able to share or have behavioral problems in general, I never knew that there was some type of training for children of that nature. Number two, provide an example of how a child is able to function in his or her own environment through these strategies. Um, Being able to um, have this type of intervention, such as the functional communication training intervention, they'll be able, one, to speak to children without even trying to hit each other. They be able to communicate effectively with each other. Not only that, but I think the child will be able to calm him him sorry, I can't talk tonight. I think the child will be able to calm himself down or herself down. Essentially, if they feel some type of animosity towards somebody, or if they feel like they can't share or anything like that, they can definitely calm down or think about it, but like right before they act out. Now, not saying a child may or may not act out, but sometimes um, they might think about the consequences after having this training, essentially. Um, Also, another thing that they can use definitely is definitely telling the teacher. I think the child will be able to, like, hey, Mister, Mrs. Such and such. I need I'd like to play with this toy, and Billy has his toy. I think the child can talk to the teacher and also figure out a way to even, I guess, try to come to a solution for Billy and the other child as well. Furthermore, I love how in the story that the teacher was very observative. I've been seeing in the last weeks of doing the works brief that teachers are have to be very observative of their child, especially in situations like this where you have a child acting out, screaming, hitting, biting each other, some stuff of that nature. So I just loved how the teacher was very observative, very involved with the child, and knew each child off the back of her hand. Number three, discuss whether or not you have been exposed to children. In this situation, I have been exposed to children that have acted out for some type of reason or have not had their way. Usually, when I was exposed to these type of children, it was on the internship when I was 17. Essentially, these children came from a background of low income families. They really didn't have their way at home. They would get beat for doing certain things. So, like, once they get to the actual, not necessarily daycare, but the summer camp, that they would act out because they couldn't have their way. But once they got home, that they would get beat for just being a child, essentially. Um, I guess seeing that firsthand is very uncomfortable, somewhat, because you have to get used to the child acting out, and you think it's just a child being bad, but sometimes it's really just because the child may be going through stuff at home. But to be honest, if I would have known about this functional communication training, I would have basically suggested it to my supervisor or um, my the person over me at the internship. I can't think of the name. Essentially, I would have just been like, hey, like, um, I would suggest this type of training for the child so they can have some type of intervention with the mother and the child to figure out why the child is acting out so much. Especially at summer camp, but a lot of times I was able to do my own observing of each child, because again, when each child comes from a low income background, sometimes you don't, sometimes they have no other choice but to act out because they don't get their own way at home, essentially. Number four, so like discuss how you will or could use these strategies to address in the future. In the future, I know for a fact I will be working with children of some type of low income because that's my dream job. It is to work to work at the Department of Human Health Services, because essentially I would like to help children of a low income families to figure out how they are, like why they are so angry. Not only that, but how can I help them become more comfortable with their environment for now. And just being able to suggest to the family functional communication training. I think that this training is good for anybody. I wouldn't say necessarily just for children that act out, but for any mother or any type of family with children. I think it's that this training is very good for anybody essentially. So I think in the future, I would use this method to basically help families out, help children out to get to understand who they are, and not only understand who they are, but so that they can really figure out why are they so angry, and figure out like why are they hitting each other, why are they acting out so much at school, and I'm also it'll get a parent insight of why their child is kind of acting out at school as well. So I think that was everything for me. And one more comment, I did enjoy this week's What Works Brief, because essentially it's basically talking about communication, and I feel like communication is very key in child the child care field, because children need to know what every step of the way. So you can't talk to a child as you talk to an adult. So when you literally have a child, you have to tell them step by step by step. You can't just say do this, do that, but you have to walk them through step by step. So I enjoyed this lesson this week because you have to be able to like communicate effectively with children and in any type of environment, essentially. I think that is it for this week, and yeah, so I will come back to you next week with What Works Brief number 19, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Good night.